gang's all here. Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for the round of Duck Talk or Duck Comics. We're still pending on that name. I'm sorry. You get what you paid for. Um, so we have another Duck comic to talk about, and we were really sort of thinking what it was going to be this time. We couldn't quite figure out on a Rosa story to do, and some of the Italian comics are way too long for this, and that other project is also way too long. And I want to get something out while the Disney Comics juices were still flowing after the Huey doing Louie video. Yeah, again, that video is still not what we originally wanted it to be, but it just got caught in development hell, and I wanted to put something out before the year was out for that. So anyway, we decided to go with another box comic. This story is going to be the story Back to Long Ago. Alright, this is a very personal favorite of mine, and primarily it's because it was the first story that they had me review on the Box Marks podcast with Mark Severino. Check that out if you're interested. Possibly the best episode of the whole podcast. Not true. I've been on other episodes. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Actually, I think my personal favorite might be Statue of Spendthrift. Hence the reason that was my favorite episode, the episode that got me into onto the Box Marks podcast to an extent, as well as what else? I recently did a recording for Rose Remarks. I've actually done 2 so far for that. So all fun, all great. So Back to Long Ago is a very special one, but first our fun little Funko for this. We went back to basics. Scrooge McDuck, yes, with the classic comic red. It's weird because in a lot of the European comics, especially for some of Barks and Rose's, his costume is the DuckTales blue and red, as I call it. So I don't quite get who decides what we get and what we don't get. We do have the actual blue one too, Funko, but another time. So anyway, back to the story itself. What makes this story fun is its simplicity and its humor. All right. Every now and then, as much as I love the big, sprawling adventures and amazing pages, and if you go from Barks and the interesting character exploration, Scrooge, and the amazing comedy of Donald's life under Rosa, sometimes these simplistic stories always have a special place in my heart. Again, Statue of Spendthrifts. So anyway, this story starts off in a very great way. This is actually my favorite way to start off just about any Uncle Scrooge story. Scrooge in his office, going over his books, going over his accounters, seeing who owes him money now. So there is a tenant who hasn't paid the rent on his building in 3 months. So that is $90. Oh, what a life it was to only have to pay $30 a month for rent. Anyway, so Scrooge's like, nah, I'm going to get the money, and if he doesn't have it, throw him out. So let's point out how absurd it is for a quadzillionaire to just throw people out. Fun fact, Rosa will later make this a joke in his Life of Scrooge series. Anyway, Scrooge goes to the guy like, hey, dude, fork over the money or get out. That's kind of it. And he's like, dude, okay, so look, let me explain to you what my problem here, all right? I'm a hypnotist, and the problem is no one wants to be hypnotized anymore. I kind of ran the market dry on that, and the big thing I do is help people find out about their past lives. All right, I'm like, oh, she's like, I'm sorry, what? Okay, so this is the gimmick here. It's actually a really fun gimmick, and at the time, this was kind of a big deal. Finding out about who you were in a past life. There was some time in that. There was an episode of Rocko's Modern Life that delved into that. There was, I think, 2 episodes of Rocko's Modern Life that delved into that. There is actually, technically, yes. There's stories in the Flintstones involving that. It's a fun idea to go with the whole past life thing. You could actually argue that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a lot about past lives, all right? Because while they keep showing you that Yugi and the Pharaoh are different people, really, you could also go with the idea that Yugi is the Pharaoh reincarnated. It's actually like the whole point. Seto is the priest Seto reincarnated. Bakura is the thief Bakura. Yeah, it's a whole thing. All right, even more when you actually look at that Millennium World arc. But anyway, so the hypnotist tries to sell Scrooge on see the lady right there, So I found out that she is descended from she was Madame de Bari in a past life. All right, And so she found some gems. And for Scrooge, it could be even better, all right? You could find out that you were someone, you were keeper of the lost mines of King Solomon, or had a connection to the treasury of King Croesus, all right? And she was like, okay, you got me. And this is sort of the joke, the fun bit. Everyone thinks that, they had a really great life in another, in another timeline, in another world. You were the coolest thing ever, all right? And as I said in the Remarks podcast, no, you were probably more than likely someone who herded sheep, or watched the people herd sheep. All right, no, you didn't own the sheep. You just had nothing else to do when you wanted to herd the sheep. And so Scrooge was like, okay, I'm in. So show me what you got. Hypnotize me. Let me see what my past life was, and we'll go there. Him says, okay, it's $90 a minute. It's $10 a minute. So you get 9 minutes, and we clear all that up. Like, okay, apparently that's union rules. I'm like, oh, okay. So it goes through, and bong! Scrooge is teleported back, and he has this vision of him. And a very unique duck. Who he wears a blue hat, a blue bandana. He's got a red necktie, a red handkerchief around his neck, and his name is Boston Pintail. And Scrooge's name was apparently Matey McDuck. And they're here to bury a treasure for Queen Anne. Alright? And they're like, okay, so we're going to bury it here so no one will get us, and no one will get to it if something happens to us. And we'll agree that no matter what happens, whichever one of us survives the adventure will make sure that this treasure is delivered safely to the Queen. Alright? And they did it to the Queen, to King and Country. And there we go. Alright? So Scrooge comes out and like, oh, okay, that's it. I like it. He goes down. Okay, so we got a whole new idea, whole new treasure, pirate loot. I am not Matey McDuck. I don't owe the Queen anything. So he goes down there. Like, okay, I'm gonna go get me a shovel and a map. And then he runs into who? Donald. And what's weird is that Donald and Scrooge like, hey, what's you're looking kind of different. Donald, you ever think of wearing an eye patch and a blue bandana? And Donald's like, you know what? Have you ever thought of wearing a plumed hat? Uncle Scrooge? Uncle Scrooge, like, he's like, you know what? Actually, I don't have time for this. I have to go. And as Donald goes, Scrooge sees like, he's got a shovel. All right, and that's actually my favorite joke in the whole thing. All right, if you listen to the podcast episode, I will not shut up about the shovel. So anyway, so Scrooge like, hey boys, what's going on with your uncle? Why has he got the shovel? And he's like, yeah, he got hypnotized and found out something about a shovel. And Scrooge goes, oh, my plumed hat! He's already got a shovel! And he goes off, okay, I gotta go. And the boys are like, we do not know what's going on with our uncles. They are getting really stupid today. Alright, so they go in like, okay, Uncle Donald, what is going on? What is going on? So he tells them like, okay, so I got hypnotized by this guy here and told me that I was a pirate and I helped bury some treasure and you need to go find it. The nephew's like, Uncle Donald, this is why we can barely make rent, Uncle Donald. This is why. Because you were going to go off and spend a whole bunch of money to go somewhere. Alright? And they're like, okay, so let's figure out what's going on. Let's get some facts, Uncle Donald. Alright? So they go in and like, okay, so it was somewhere off the northeast of Trinidad. Okay, so they go through there, they go to the library, they look it up. They're like, okay, this seems legit. I don't get it. I'm scared. Alright, so they go in, Uncle Donald, okay, it wasn't stupid. Alright, so they go in and they find out that, hey, Boston Pintail and presumably Matey McDuck, who's apparently Malcolm McDuck, the further we go down, they both sank in the ship. So they go through and they're like, okay, let's go, Uncle Donald. This isn't stupid. They go in like, here's your shovel, Uncle Donald. Let's go. They go to the airlines. They see Scrooge. They're like, hey, where you going, guys? And Donald points out, oh my God, you've got a shovel. And that's when they both accept the fact, oh, you were Boston Pintail. You were Matey McDuck. Well, to be fair, Donald, it's a good bet that I was Matey McDuck with that last name. Or I don't know how you didn't figure that one out. So anyway, it's like, okay, so what you doing, buddy? And what's weird is there's no reason for them to be against each other here. But it's like, nah, see, Scrooge's like, if I team up with you, I have to share the treasure, what, 2 to 5 ways, all right? 3 ways if we count each nephew as just like one part of the unit. Hint, hint, the Huey doing Louie video. But if I just go myself, I just share it with me. And Donald's like, okay, I can't follow that logic because I was doing the same thing. So anyway, we're trying to figure out, okay, so the race goes on as to who's going to get there. Scrooge decides, like, you know what, Donald, you're forgetting one very important thing. I already have more money than you. I'm going to buy every seat on this plane for my shovel. And that is just sort of where it gets insane. Scrooge is once again does the very rare thing he does, which is throw his huge money around to solve the problem. He rarely does. It's rarely his go-to. It's like, no. But this time, nah. DC's probably cost what? About $10 each, all right? So, what's that? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 90, 100, 200. Probably about maybe 200, but there's already other passengers there, so it's the remaining seats. So, that works. Scrooge expects his treasure to be, like, in the thousands at least. So, yeah, it's a good bet. So, Scrooge decides to take this chance to go off. He gets a boat. He goes in like, yeah, I'm feeling good in the neighborhood. Yeah. Meanwhile, Donald and the boys are able to get the next plane, and it turns out there's a storm a-brewing. So, yeah. Scrooge has sort of come out on the bottom here, and it is sort of his comeuppance. So, Donald and the boys are waiting. Let's wait for the storm to clear out. Let's be smart and responsible. Scrooge's like, I hate the elements! I hate the elements! As he tries to navigate by himself. And the storm just rages and crashes and thorns and whatnot. It's actually a very good premise. It's a good artwork here. Like, I'm sort of downplaying it, but I do like how the story works. Namely in terms of how the universe seems to conspire against Scrooge, in the same way it sort of conspires against Donald in the same way. The difference is Scrooge sort of did the bad thing, and so the universe punishes him for it first. Alright, so they all have to wait out the storm, and Scrooge's like, yep, there go all the boats, I need to find a way, and the boys say, like, okay, good, Uncle Scrooge did not find the treasure yet, we're still in the race, we have a chance, and Scrooge, okay, I want to buy your boat. Like, what? Yeah, I want to buy your boat. Turns around, boat gets hit, like, never mind, goes off, I can't buy that boat. Alright, so it goes off then. They find out about another boat. It's a huge little fancy ship here, all right? It's a replica of the Falcon Rover, the ship that Matey McDuck and Boston Pintail were on before it sank. So, okay, that is sort of interesting how this story is sort of happening. Over the course of this book, we do see Scrooge and Donald sort of sink into their past lives. Whether there's any truth to them that being their past lives is interesting, but at the same time, what makes this fun is the fact that, well, they start acting like them. Almost as if, like, they're either buying into the psychosis, like, hey, this was you in a past life, and as they get closer to the event, those past lives are slowly taking over. Alright? Or they've just lost their ever-loving minds. So they realize Scrooge has bought the Falcon Rover, so they have to find a way to sneak on. It's like, you know what? I got it. Let's dress up as pirates. Alright, nothing about us has changed. Well, Donald anyway, so I've got an eye patch. And the boys can wear... Actually, the boys are wearing pretty convincing outfits. I'm not going to lie. You would not think they're triplets. So they sneak onto the ship as workers, and on their way in, they reveal like, hey, Uncle Scrooge, guess who we are? Like, oh, God, okay, fine. Alright, let's go in, and... they once again slip into their roles. Alright, like, and they just start fighting with the shovels. Clong, bong, clang, bam. And the nephew's like, oh my God, that's it, tackle our uncles. They hold him down, and I think, what is that? Is that... ooh, that's Louie. Louie is playing for keeps, grabbing their Uncle Scrooge by the tail feathers. Granted, the other ones got Donald by the neck. So it's like, okay guys, if you could just shut up and stop being stupid, you could just dig up the treasure and call it a day. We could all be rich, Uncle Scrooge will be richer, and we can go home. Sound good? Like, fine. So they dig, dig, and they find it. And what do they find? What do they find? They find dried up potatoes. Like, why? Why? So it's a letter, and they also find a letter from Captain Hawk. The letter says that these vegetables, these exotic vegetables, were to be sent to Queen Anne, the good Queen Bess. All right, I think I've gotten the queens mixed up here. Oh, my English audience is going to be so upset. Do I have an English audience? If I do, they're going to be upset. But anyway, so like, okay, well, yeah, at that time, potatoes would have been a whole new exotic vegetable. All right, so like, well, what do you make of that, uncles? And they're like, plenty. They just start beating the crap out of that treasure chest with the shovels, a bunch of splat, socks, and bams. And like, we are gonna beat him down. Granted, this was our own fault. Uncle Scrooge was just taking the money. But that's how the comic ends. Ultimately, Back So Long Ago is just fun hilarity at its purest. All right, this is a story that if you go by the cover here, all right, this story looks amazing, fantastic. We're not even sure if that is Donald or Scrooge. All right, also one of the rare moments where ducks are wearing actual shoes. Look at that right there. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Oh, my finger's in there. All right, look at that. All right. This is actually a really fun costume for Scrooge. You will see Malcolm McDuck on the Duck family tree. You'll also see him in The Life of Scrooge, Part 5, one of my personal favorite issues. And even more so, you'll see Boston Pintail in the Duck family tree as well, on Donald's side. So there is some credence that these two actually are related to Scrooge and Donald. It's also weird that these two families did come together in a sort of way. So there's that. Ultimately, this is, again, a fun adventure. I usually like some actual treasure in my stories, but one thing I've noticed going through a lot of Bard stories is that the treasure is rarely there. It's been a bit of a downer for me, but I think it's because I've come from a DuckTales background. All right, and DuckTales is always a treasure. There's always something of obvious treasurality. It's not a word, but actually, let me find out it is. I'm brilliant. Some treasurality, like the obvious pile of gold there too. And usually, Scrooge gets to keep it. The Bark stories tend to not do that. Like, no, there it is, and there it goes. In this case, it's, I think, the harsh reality. As we said before, people like to think they have really great destinies and whatnot, all right? And Donald and Scrooge think that their characters, that their past lives, died securing some great legendary treasure. No, it was potatoes. It was potatoes. They legit died hiding potatoes. Herding sheep sounds pretty good about now. So anyway, with that in mind, let's bring this to a close here. If you are new to the Bucket, thanks, and feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. What's your favorite Duck comic? What's your favorite story here? Alright, I personally love the Shovel Joke. It's great, even more so because of Death Battle and Scrooge killing Shovel Knight. It just sort of, it came full circle. I wonder if they planned that. I don't know. So anyway, this is the Bucket Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.